thank you for coming. Welcome. We appreciate everybody coming out to support Chris Tapp and his innocence. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I had to work with Chris and to work with so many great people. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have so many people stand behind me and stand beside me and do this. Chris is an innocent man. He's been innocent all along, something that very few of us have had the opportunity to know and understand. But I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've had, and I would now like to turn it over to Jennifer Cummins from the Innocence Project here in Idaho, in Boise.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jennifer Cummins. I'm a volunteer attorney with the Idaho Innocence Project at Boise State University. And I'll be brief, but what I'm overwhelmed with today is remembering back 12 years ago to a handwritten letter that Dr. Greg Campikian received in the mail from an inmate named Christopher Tapp. And it was very short and it was very sweet. And he said, I'm innocent and I just need someone to listen to me and to help me. And it's been a long 12 years since then, a lot of arduous work, a lot of work taken on by so many wonderful volunteers of the Innocence Project. In particular, all of the hard work that was done to rewrite Idaho's post-conviction appeal statute on DNA testing, which allowed us to get to where we are today. And with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Greg Campikian.
Thanks. I'll just talk a little about the DNA. As Jen said, in 2007 we got a letter, but we really didn't know what to do about that letter till Sarah Thomas at the Appellate Public Defender's Office said, no, you need to look at this case. And so one of my students spent, I think, 30 hours reviewing the interrogation, came back just in tears and said, you got to take this. And so we started pushing from 2007 on to get more DNA testing, the idea being, can we get several pieces of evidence that all say the same thing? The first thing we pushed for, 2008, was a pubic hair. It again matched the profile that now matches the new suspect. And then we started something new in 2009. We started using genealogy, trained the Idaho Falls Police Department on how to use genealogy, and through that they were able to identify a last name from that DNA, the first time that was ever done. None of this would have been possible if we hadn't been able to change the DNA law in Idaho. We had only 1 year after conviction to get DNA. It wouldn't have worked in Chris's case. That took 4 years to change. And it was a DNA petition that got us here back in court. You know, a lot of the heavy lifting was done by John Thomas, the attorney. We've had 4 attorneys on the case through the Idaho Innocence Project, and now the attorneys from the Innocence Project in New York have joined also. So just to give you some idea, somebody here said, you know, we don't want to see this ever happen again. It's already happened again. This case is from 1996. Do you think there weren't others that were prosecuted the same way? Of course there are others here in Idaho. So this one took hundreds of thousands of dollars and thousands of hours of volunteer work. And we need to keep working. We need to learn the lessons and discover the cases in Idaho that went through this same type of erroneous investigation that leads an innocent man to say things that are untrue because he's being threatened that his life is going to be taken. So the DNA prevailed, thanks to C.C. Moore and Parabon Nanolabs and the fine work that they did to close it up. Thanks very much.
Now hear from Vanessa Bach. Sorry.
Since 1989, 2,400 and now 67 people have been proven innocent when you take into account all types of evidence. But 367 of those cases are people who are proven innocent with DNA testing. And in 28% of the cases, people falsely confessed through custodial interrogation, gave statements implicating themselves to crimes that they were completely innocent of. You know, in some ways, Chris is lucky because there was DNA that could come along and ultimately show the identity of who committed the crime. but in most cases there is not DNA evidence, and we really have to look at what's going on in interrogation rooms throughout this country. We know that the methods that police use to obtain interrogations lead innocent people to falsely confess. It is, I think, surprising to most people that police can lie to you. So if you're somebody who grows up trusting the police and thinking that the police are there to help you, when you go into an interrogation room and the police say to you, you just need to work with us, it's going to be better for you if you tell us what we need to know from you, or tell us what they want to hear. It is, these are tactics that lead innocent people to falsely confess. So we need to make sure that every state videotapes interrogations from beginning to end, so we have an accurate recording of what happened in the interrogation room. But we also need to make sure that these techniques that are psychologically coercive that police are using, day in and day out to get confessions, are not used anymore, because we know that there are many more Chris Tapps out there.
Next, we're going to hear from Steve Drizzen from the Northwestern University Center on Wrongful Convictions.
My name is Steve Drizzen. I'm from the Center on Wrongful Convictions at Northwestern Law. I'm a law professor, and I'm also someone who studies and works on false confession cases. After a Dateline episode that aired in 2012, I got a call in February of 2013, and on the other end of the line was Carol Dodge. It's the first time in my career that I had ever been contacted by a crime victim, and she asked me to evaluate the interrogation tapes of Chris Tapp, and I said yes. And when I buckled down and spent hours looking at them, I saw the least corroborated and most contaminated confession I had ever seen before. I saw a coerced confession that was obtained through promises of leniency, an immunity agreement, through threats of harm, the gas chamber, and through multiple false evidence ploys or lies about evidence. It was a virtual recipe for how to take a false confession. Vanessa Potkin has summarized all of the flaws with the interrogation process, but what I wanted to know is how a layperson, how a crime victim could look at these tapes and see all of the problems with these tapes. How could she see that and the police officers not see all of these problems? And that's what I found out. These police officers were stuck in the Chris Tapp box, and they couldn't get out of it. Even though DNA evidence excluded Chris Tapp and excluded every single person that he named, they were stuck in that box. And as a result of that, Chris had to spend years and years in prison that he didn't need to spend in prison. So what I want to see happen is, in cases like this, before trial, when you have a confession and you have DNA evidence that excludes the person who confesses, police officers need to stop and not charge that person and continue investigating. Because had they done so, perhaps they might have found the person who actually committed this crime.
All right, the last guy we're going to speak with is Chris Tapp. He's the one you wanted to see today, so let's all give him a round of applause.
That's what a free man looks like.
And like I said in the courtroom, I appreciate everything that everybody has done for me in the last 20 years. I hope that things get learned from this mistake, and I hope things get changed and things get better. But there's never another mistake like this ever happens again in this community or in this state. I'm glad I was able to come out the other end and still smile and still be happy, like I said, inside the courtroom. And the biggest thing is this, is I don't want anybody to ever forget about Angie Dodge. That is the one thing in this world that people sometimes do forget, because, you know, she is foreshadowed sometimes with all this that's going on right now. I hope nobody ever forgets Angie Dodge. That's really what I got to say.
Chris, somebody left a rock here that says believe. Did you ever lose your belief that you would be freed?
Some days you do. Some days you have to accept the reality of this might have been the end for me, is sitting in prison for a crime I never committed. And then there's other days where the rest of my team lost their own faith and their belief, and I was the one holding. That's going to be okay. We got the next hearing. We'll get them on the next run. Today is that day where I can look at them and tell them there will be no more hearings. That the judge and the state gave me the actual innocence, which I truly, rightfully deserved.
Chris, congratulations again. It is incredible for you and your family. What's next for you? What do you plan to do with this?
I don't know. The world has changed again. 2 years ago, I accepted the fact that I was going to be a convicted felon, and I didn't have certain rights. I couldn't do certain things, and I couldn't go to certain places and live a different life. Now I don't ever have to worry about that. It's a new life, a new beginning, a new world for me. And I'm just going to enjoy it every day, but I will still continue doing what I've been doing, going to work and living the life that I should have been living for the last 22 and a half years.
Chris, you have expressed a lot of gratitude. There's a lot of people that have been angry for you, that are mourning for you. How did you get to this point to where you do have a smile on your face and that you are grateful?
A lot of soul searching and a lot of time just accepting it. People make mistakes and mistakes happen, and I just accepted it, and I couldn't dwell in hate because hate could destroy somebody, and I just couldn't be destroyed any more than what I already was.
I hate to bring this up, but restitution, are you going to seek that?
That's a question for me. We are seeking restitution in the amount of $2,600 and something for him paying into the Victims Compensation Fund and fines and court costs that he paid over the years.
Do you foresee a civil litigation, though, down the road for more?
That's a conversation for another day. Today, Chris, is all about, we're just here about the exoneration. Any other questions?
I know, John, you said the other day, Chris, you plan to look for a job now, like a real job. Anything that you want to do? Anything that you're looking at?
I honestly can't say. I've never, my company that I work for has been treating me really well, and they're doing what's right. So, again, but I have to come to reality, Sometimes you have to go where the money goes, and you have to move on to bigger and better things. I can't say one right now. Like I said, it's just all about getting past this day. Then we'll look forward to the next day and the next day after that, and just continue to grow and become better.
Is that it? Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you coming out.
Freedom!